Hey traders, Raghee here. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Charts and Coffee. Great to see everyone. All right, so what do we have going on this week in terms of data? I think we touched on this in the Sunday notes. So if you've checked out the Sunday notes or the Sunday notes show, which is posted on the Simpler Trading YouTube channel, you know that we have a light week. One of the hot zones is today, and they're all 8:30, more or less 8:30 focused hot zones, which, by the way, my day traders out there who've heard me talk about first come, first serve, which is a volatility based intraday setup. So it's basically a setup that we can use time and volatility to decode and to trade. Those are the kinds of things that I'll look at this time of morning for these kinds of hot zones. We've got initial claims at ADP and PCE and all sorts of relatively light calendar, but the events that are coming are pretty high impact. So if you haven't checked it out already, what I use is that Forex factory calendar, and that helps you, find out where those data release hot zones are. Now, the other hot zones that we're dealing with. Now, what are hot zones again, for those of you that may not know the terminology? Well, it's a Ragheeism for understanding scheduled high impact volatility events. So there's really three calendars that I'll look at consistently. One is, Estimize. So Estimize allows us to track the different hot zones that are coming. Look, I can talk about PCE and GDP and things like that all day, but look, we've got huge earnings today after the bell. Google, Microsoft. I mean, these are just huge earnings. Pepsi is a big one in terms of impact on the XLY. So, we can talk about data, but between today and tomorrow, and even going into Thursday, Friday, we just have so many. I mean, we have Thursday's Apple, Amazon, Intel, Yowza, right? So I use Estimize to do two things. One, I like to track it. So this way I can look out that 642 window that I talked to you all about. There's a full explainer over at the Countdown Trader. If you want to know how I trade earnings, these particular hot zones we want to prepare for really ideally 6 weeks out. So check that right up, and then you'll see why the Estimize works its way right into being able to keep an eye on this really easily. And then the calendar over at Forex Factory. So I wanted to touch base on really some of the important foundational aspects of being a trader, which is knowing the calendar and not getting sideswiped by these scheduled high impact, high volatility events. All right. So as always, the show is about your questions. So let's go ahead and jump into them. First up, hey there, student. I just subscribed to Sector Secrets. Very cool. Great to have you. Welcome to the think tank. TradeStation is not available in Canada. I don't really use TradeStation for the charts as much. I do use it to feed my trading view. I'm a big TradeStation fan. I don't use it as much in the mastery. So don't worry about that. TOS requires 25K minimum. Do I have indicators for IB or TradingView? Yes. So what we do in the mastery is we focus on two different platforms. Thinkorswim, since that is by a landslide the most popular platform here in the Simpler community, and I use TradingView quite a bit. I have for many years. So yes, once you're a member and once you log into the room, you'll basically just request that those indicators be pushed to your account. So that's it. That's it. We have them for TradingView. And welcome. And I love TradingView. This is the TradingView platform here in front of you right now. I'm a big fan. It works great on a phone. I do most of my alerts on TradingView. We've been using it for a lot of years. All right, next up is, can I take a look at CMC and FCG? So CMC, if I'm looking at FCG, well, let me do it this way. Let me show you the multi-chart, because this is basically a staple layout in the mastery. And this is the best way to scan for relative performance, gang. Nothing even comes close. And what this allows you to do with a free layout and some basic labels is get a really solid relative performance. I like to focus on outperformers. Look, so here's your FCG. And I know CMC's in this list somewhere, but when you look up your, here, I'm going to just make sure that I've got the layout, because what we want to do, so those of you wondering, okay, Rag, what are you trying to do here? What I'm trying to do is take what this is, which is a pre-curated list of stocks. And I'm actually looking at my other screen here to double check that I've got this natural gas ETF holding in order. So it does start off with EQT, Oxy, okay, DCP, WES, AR. They're a little out of order, but when I'm looking at FCG, now remember, there is not a lot of liquidity in FCG. So I love the question on the symbol. If you're playing the underlying stock, I got an email yesterday from a new member who said, Rag, I'm not playing the options. I like to play the underlying stock. That's fine. And in the case of FCG, that is likely what you'd have to do. It's too thin. So I do like the uptrend. It's been broken most recently, but there's no real point in talking about the option because it's just too illiquid. And then CMC, let's jump on over there. Okay, CMC looks a lot like FCG. Trend is pierced. Now, I would like to see 2 red grab candles if we're going to look at this particular stock and say, hey, the uptrend is broken. It's hanging on. It's not pretty. But look at how we have, really pulled in to the wave. Be careful here. Just be careful, because here's what I'll tell you. And this has hit my book pretty hard the last 2 days. The last 2 months, focusing on inflation and metals and mining and commodity related inflation focused trades has worked very, very well. On Friday, and you could even say it started Thursday, there's just been an unwind in the markets broadly, but definitely hitting these commodity-based markets, metals, mining, grains. You'll see that not grains as hard as other markets, but you'll see that some of these very strong trends are getting hit quite hard. And because of that, I'm being really hesitant to move back in, because part of my brain says, Rag, you know how much, you know how profitable these trades have been. And that's the bias, sort of the recency bias of profitability. Oh, this one's been so good to me. Let's get in again. Let's buy this dip. When in reality, clearly something at the moment has changed in the market, not just in those corners of the market, but specifically the fact that when we're seeing weakness right now, it's pretty broad based. And that usually is telling us something. And the first thing it tells me is it's time to pause. So I'm doing a lot of pausing right now, except for a handful of symbols that I've got my eye on. I'm doing a lot of pausing right now. Now, gold is one of those markets I do like, but it's not a trend. It has gone down to test, as you can see here. This is great. I mean, look at this. Look at that Darvis right at work. Yang, if you want some automated support and resistance on your charts, look no further than countdowntrader.com. Go grab that free Darvis 2.0 that we give you all. I've got the 3.0 running on my screen, so it's accompanied by the signals, but the 2.0 will get you started. Now, the next thing we want to do is ask ourselves, is gold a buy? Potentially, but GDX has a very interesting look in terms of what we might be able to do with the symbol. It broke down as well. Like I said, metals, mining, they got hit hard. So I'm keeping an eye on that one as well. I'll get a better idea after 10 o'clock. I don't really believe that I'll know everything about the market at 10 after 9 or even between 9:30 and 10. Let's see how the clearing range basically trades, and then we'll see what kind of clarity we have after that. All right. Question is IYT to be an outperformer this year? Scott, I have no idea. I'll leave that to the talking heads on television to prognosticate. I have no idea. Right now, it's not looking very impressive, but I couldn't tell you. Will transports outperform? How about we just wait for a setup, right? How about we just wait for a setup and then we'll just manage that setup. And if it keeps going and organizes from an oversold bounce potentially into a trend, we'll buy the dip in the trend and maybe, we'll notice when we look back, hey, that was an outperformer, but I don't know that now. In fact, frankly, nobody does. So is it at a layer of support? That it is. So Scott, good eye. I mean, you're looking at where we have a number of Darvis levels that have pre-identified, right? What does that Darvis do? It's going to automatically show me the support and resistance on the screen. And this is on any time frame, any symbol, instantly. So take a look at what we've sunk down into. Those are just the two most recent Darvis. And you notice I'm just extending those lines forward. That's all. In fact, all I do is I grab the price tool and I click on top of the Darvis, and it just basically puts that level on the screen for me, just like you saw me do. So that could be an oversold buy. And let's go from there. All right. Hey there, Philip. This is Philip very cool. I love sector. I appreciate that. What do I think of the Apple? What do I think of Apple? Oh gosh, Philip. So you're a member of sector, even if you're not a member of sector, gang, 642 earnings window. And if you don't, check it out over at countdowntrader.com. The best way to find that, by the way, is just to head on over to the Google and search Countdown Trader. Just make it all one word. And then do earning, and then do, I think if you just type in 642 earnings, let's make sure I didn't type in earrings or something. There we go, earnings. The first result should be Raghee 642 earnings window. All right. That's how I find stuff on my own site. So there you go, 642 earnings window. I don't know, can I push this through in the, here, how I trade earnings. Okay. So with Apple, my friend, there's not much I can do here. I do not like to prioritize non-trending markets. I don't like to prioritize non-trending markets, especially in front of earnings. So but specific to your question, here's what I will say, Philip. No, it just straight up. I love technically what you've got your eye on. I think that's great. Good eye. The problem is, gang, earnings don't give a rip about our secret squiggles. They just not at all. So to look at a technical setup in front of earnings is kind of tricky. Earnings is about, let me show you something here. Because I know a lot of folks, Rob, you've been talking about earnings a little bit because we're in earnings season, right? I get your 642. But what's this thing you talk about with whisper numbers and things like that? Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. So we have earnings coming up, right? And what we're waiting for, so you can see there's the Q1 actual. I know it's a little difficult to see. Let me do that. Okay, there we go. Wow, that's bright. Okay, so we're waiting on, right? There's our next report. The consensus, the Wall Street consensus, and the estimate, right? This is the game that's being played, gang. It's not what have Apple's earnings done historically. It's not looking back at the last 5, 6. That's not it at all. Because take a look. You can see all that stuff right here anyways, right? If you're a fan of Rog, what has Apple typically done? Well, there you go. It's a nice little chart. You can see it tends to outperform consensus and Wall Street consensus. So, but then until it doesn't, You can see here Q1, not so much. Q2 went back to outperforming. So am I going to presume that we'll probably be above 152 on earnings per share? Yes. And if we are, and that's the number, gang, that's the number. So when people ask, Rog, what would send Apple higher? It's not a secret squiggle. It's the bet that you're making when you're playing earnings. And I'll tell you, most traders don't understand this. They're too busy looking at secret squiggles and the history of earnings. That's not it. What is the consensus, right? What is the Wall Street consensus? What is sort of the force rank consensus, if you will, sort of the crowdsourced consensus? That's the whisper number. And then where do we come in terms of that? For Apple to move higher, it would have to be above 152. That's it. And that's on earnings per share. On revenue, you can see again, if you want to look at the history, knock yourself out. It's not really going to help you that much, but there's a tendency. So what do I think moving forward in terms of the tendency? We need to be above 96.2 on revenue. And that's how you have a better idea of what the reaction is ultimately going to be for an earnings play. And that would be an earnings play, Philip. So if you're looking at Apple, that you really want to see that the whisper number, which is the blue estimized consensus, you want to see that number above that level, not simply above Wall Street consensus, above that level. All right. So keep that in mind, and that's definitely going to help you navigate earnings, especially inside the 2-week window that personally I tend to avoid, right? I like the sort of that rumble, right? That rumbling higher. I like that tumbling lower, rumbles and tumbles into earnings. Chop inside a couple of days. That's not where my power band personally is. All right. So thank you for the question. I hope that helps a little bit. All right. UNH comments. I like XLV, but it got, like everything else, it got hammered hard. But are there relative? So let's go back, Mike. Let's go back to relative outperformance within the XLV, right? So are there relative outperformers in this particular group of stocks? Now, I know that XLV, I know the tide doesn't look all that great, right? It lost the wave, 2 red grab candles, broken wave, broken trend. So the next thing I need to do is ask myself, is anything within healthcare, ideally past earnings, and also double green, right? I don't want to have to deal with the earnings shenanigans. Now, I love Merck and Bristol Myers Squibb. Love those two. But you see what's up just ahead of the headlights there? That's the problem. So again, I end up having to play something like this, a little bit more like I was just describing to Philip. But UNH got earnings behind us. It's a relative outperformer. That would be a buy the dip, my friend. Yep, you got it, Mike. All right, XLP is the best performing sector over the last 30 days. And is it? Okay, cool. And, I usually check Koifin for that, but thank you. So best performing sector, it's a corner of the market that tends to want to see what? If we're going to see the market want to hide out somewhere, right? If we're going to want to see, if we're looking for the market to show us all the symbols, all the sectors, all the indices, where is flow when there's fear? It's usually to utilities. It's usually to things like staples. I like staples straight up. I'm with you on to focus on staples. I'm also with you on Costco, although it pierced the wave. But I like XLP. I like XLP on a pullback, double green, wave is intact, 21 propulsion dot. But look at how much there is to like in this group. Everything from Philip Morris, which we've been in and out of in the mastery. Look at Walmart touching that 21. Propulsion, Pepsi, which has earnings, Coke. Now remember, Pepsi can move XLP some, but I like XLP. And if you want to go from tide to boat, I'm with you on that. Good eye. Really good stuff. All right. Let's see. Is the day trading, hi there, Cindy. Is the day trading that I do, day trading equities, futures, or both? So I day trade futures Cindy, and I day trade options on individual stocks and ETFs and indices. So I don't day trade the actual stock options on it, yeah, and futures. So yes, I'll look at both because let's say I cannot find a good clear setup in the Nasdaq futures, but XLK or XLY has clarity on the intraday on say a 5-minute chart. I can go into the options on those, seeing that those are pretty liquid. So I like to look at both. I like to look at both. All right, gang. And just like that, boy, that flies by. 20 minutes is up. I super appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us for Charts and Coffee. Well, you know what? I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same station. I'm about to head into the futures room right now, and I will talk with you all soon. Be good to each other.